Alright fellas, the question I see all the time remains unanswered. What is the best army possible in Bannerlord? Is it a horde of cons guards, swarming with hit and run tactics, or a mix of Fian Champs and Imperial elite cataphract, sweeping everything in front of them aside? Is it masses of elite palace guards and Valandian sharpshooters, or some kind of mix of the best troops in the game? In this series, we'll look to explore and answer that question, as I put my 10,000 hours of Bannerlord to the test with 400 elite mixed units comprised of what I consider the best possible 400-man army in the game. We'll take on a variety of different challenges and, amplified by mods, enormous legions of the enemy to try and demonstrate the awesome power of the perfect Bannerlord army. And we're just a little bit banged up, but the gang's all here, and we've got a virtually maxed out perfect army for this Bannerlord series here. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. We established about a month ago with an episode on the channel what a great city Diathma is for defense, and let's put it to the ultimate test here. This looks like 10,000 plus, 11,800 Western Empire forces, amplified by the strengthened AI mod. Now we've got more than 400 for this 400 challenge series. We'll recruit every single prisoner here though, because we're going to lose 61 troops on the way in. So we'll actually have less than 400 from our own army. We'll add another stack of javelins here, so that we'll have a good solid 40 for this siege. I just like as many javelins as possible. When you have a legionary bearing down on you and all you have is a bow and arrow, you get dropped. So in we go here, 11,800. Of course, we'll use the normal player damage. And welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to Bannerlord, dedicated to tactics in Bannerlord, and epic sieges like this are always a good time. I'm going to sit up straight in my chair here and prepare for this monster siege. And now let's get enlightened. Let's make some good decisions here. They don't look like they have any siege towers. It looks like just ladders. This siege is somewhat artificially created. We took a city deep in Western Empire territory with no cities around it, and it, kicking the hornet's nest. Every single Western Empire force poured in. So I think knowing, how Diathma works, knowing how the ladders, the enemy tends to rally troops to try to charge you on the left here. What we're going to have is an attack dog division and a square over here on the left to try to counter that. Hugh the Hammer, this monstrous level 50 character with just elite everything and a gigantic list of perks and maxed out armor and this incredible army. He'll be in command of the 2nd Division, and we'll... I can't do it quite yet. We're going to stretch this though across this back line. What's nice about this is it's not really an archer's range from the attackers. So these guys, it's a mix of infantry and archers, which I like for a situation like this, as the enemy tries to stack up troops here and rally and attack us on our left flank. We'll have this division to counterattack. There'll be guys shooting. There's even a few guys down here on this lower level, which I like. This lower level, of course, these roofs you can use in Diathma. You can put archers here. Oops, the 2nd Division got mixed up. That's okay. We'll go back and adjust some units here once we flesh out the units. We're going to have 4 main archer divisions, and the 2nd is a mixed division. So the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, or excuse me, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th will be archer divisions. The 8th has a few infantry in there, but mostly that's because they're companions mixed in there. This 2nd Division... something like that. We'll adjust it a little bit once the battle starts. And any battle like this, this could easily be a 1-hour episode. Strap yourself in, fellas. If you like epic siege, this is you're in the right place. I don't think there are anybody else on Bannerlord showing sieges like this. And if they are, actually, I'd love to know about them, because I would love to see what they're doing, if they're doing something differently, if they're doing something much better. I want to learn still. Now, the 4th Division is our militia division. These are weak guys, so this is going to be our defensive unit over here. I'll use that there for now at that base of the stairs, but that's probably going to be the division we use to hold back the forces on the left. Now, the enemy's going to come up siege ladders over here Obviously, siege ladders, one of the negatives is you can't stop the enemy from coming up them. The positive is they kind of trickle instead of just pour in. It's not like a hole in the wall. And with an infantry division kind of squared right there, that'll protect archers on these rooftops. That's a paramount strategy, of course, for a siege, is pound the enemy with archers, use a square at the gate, position archers in locations where they can shred as many different attackers as possible. 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. I want a crossbow division. I've been mentioning this a lot. I like to put shields in one division. That way, if I need to, I can use these guys in a variety of functions. I can use them in a defensive square. I can shove them into the gate if the enemy's pouring through. I can steal from those troops and put it in one of the infantry divisions that's starting to get weakened. There's a bunch of different advantages to that. And of course, they kill at range. It's just, this is the perfect example of why you don't really want 400 Fian Champs for a defense like this. So very valuable to have Sergeant Crossbow, and that is the purpose of this series. It's, you know, it's a dysfunctional court case, right? They'd be putting me in contempt of court by this stage, but we're just showing over and over again the incredible value of a mixed army. And it's going to be really fascinating in a couple months here when we get war sales and new units to see if tactics change at all, to see if the dynamics change, to see if they modify units the way that combat works a little bit. I don't think they'll make huge changes, but I can see them making some changes. So the 6th, I like crossbow close to the gate. Crossbow do more damage than archers, especially up close. And so if you can get crossbow kind of close to the enemy, of course there's Fian Champs and Khans guards. I will talk a little bit about this army at times during this siege. This is just an incredible army. And we're going to need it, right? The enemy here is enhanced. I'll talk about this too, with the Strength and AI mod. The enemy here is much stronger than any army you will ever see in Bannerlord. Not just in the size, but the strength of their units. It's going to be really interesting to observe just what is coming at us here, wave after wave. Now, I don't see any counter siege at all. I don't see any catapults on either side, which is really weird. Of course, we just entered this castle, so we had no control over that. But for whatever reason, there's no fire catapults here. There's no catapults at all. So we're not going to be able to really do any damage beforehand. It's going to be kind of just a raw siege. We've got this sort of snowy, looks like it's a snowy morning or afternoon or something like that in Diathma. And this is, I'm ready for this shit. Let's do this shit. I'm slightly under the weather, but I got just enough fucking energy and brain power to tactically order a huge siege defense here. So I like this, right? We've got this mix of infantry and archers over there. That division down there will probably pull up there at some point, especially if the enemy really focuses on that left side. That looks good. The archers are positioned well there. The square looks good. These crossbow are beautifully positioned. Look at the ones on the hills. Those guys could shoot down. I like that. Now the back is a little concerning here, right? This is a weird castle. The enemy comes up, I think, right around here. They have a ladder over here, and try to get a closer look at this. They have you know, 2 ladders. And of course, with ladders, all you can do is push them off, and it's highly counterproductive to do that because the enemy just immediately puts them back up. And right there, those little sticks, you can, like, you know, you can push the forks, you can push the ladder away. Well, facing this many enemies, it's a no, that's a no, no starter, right? That's just a non-starter. You can't do that because they'll instantly put them back up, and while you're pushing them away, you're highly vulnerable to javelins. Just standing here, these motherfuckers are throwing javelins at me left and right, hitting the wall behind me. The good thing is that I can just pick up their javelins and chuck it right at them. As long as I'm not distracted here by the sunrise, we're gonna be able to rack up some kills. This is the kind of battle, of course, where this player character spec really shines as well. All the characters, or all the units in the army here have the 330 medicine skill perk, so you're talking 200 hit points on all of these elite units. We've got a pile of rocks there at least, so we're not completely bereft. And it's eerily silent right now because I think the enemy's just, you know, sort of slowly, systematically moving the ram up, and they won't attack the siege. They won't charge the ladders until the ram is closed. So it's just kind of this calm before the storm here. And you can see Fian Champs in the back. I mean, this is just an awesome army. So let's cover this real quick. Strength and AI mod, of course, this mod, it's highly customizable for this battle. And for most of this 400 series, this perfect Bannerlord, our perfectly modest title here, this perfect Bannerlord army, most of the series we've had the enemy getting extra troops and extra troop leveling. So what they get is they get more troops and a higher level. That's how you get an army that looks like this on the battlefield. I'm almost willing to bet that every single enemy force that's on the battlefield right now is tier 6. It's all Fian Champs, Draconic Champions, Banner Knights, Imperial Elite Cataphracts. If it's not all, it's like 90%. And as soon as I say that, I kill a Palace Guard, which is a tier 5. Well, it's a good thing we didn't bet, but almost all of their units are tier 6. It's just an unbelievably stacked army. And because of this late stage campaign amalgamation, the enemy has a huge variety of different troops, right? They got Banner Knights, I see Draconic Champions, the aforementioned Fian Champs. They have a huge mix of different troops. So it's going to be, they see have Aserai Ferris. They basically have every tier 6 unit here. I guess the only thing I haven't seen so far is Khan's Guards, and it won't surprise me if the enemy has Khan's Guards. Hugh the Hammer has earned his name, right, with this fucking lethally fast hammer. Now this is his longer fast hammer. I decided to whip this out. This is named Grond for the Hammer of the Underworld, which is a J.R. Tolkien homage. We wanted to pay homage to the monster hammer that Melkor wielded in the Silmarillion. It's basically, you know, this legendary gigantic hammer. I'm sure his hammer was big enough that I wouldn't be able to swing it, but for all intents and purposes, this is Grond. And it's a huge, long hammer that does good damage, but it's also fast. Now, it's not as fast as the hammer I normally use, but I like it for this situation. So they're not really attacking the courtyard. They're sending troops right here. So I'm going to use this square. It's a mix of militia. Unfortunately, we have militia. I mean, I guess I should say fortunately, right? They're going to contribute. They're going to hold their little shield up. And decent troops in that 4th Corps. That's our weakest division. And they're kind of acting as bait there. Here, we've got a firing squad, right? This division is going to get beat down here. This division at the gate is the 1st division. This is some of our best units. Of course, our whole army is some of our best units, so we can just easily add legionary and whatnot to this square. And these guys are going to, for sure, be under the biggest duress of this battle. If we play this right and our tactics are well designed, and we do the occasional shuffling of units around, the enemy should never even be able to get to most of our archers, right? A little bit at times, and then you'll see me make adjustments that I talk about. Other than that, it's just wailing away here with the hammer and trying to avoid taking too much damage. On the damage side of discussions, Hugh the Hammer is basically the strongest character in the history of Bannerlord, and I don't mean that like facetiously. I just mean from a pure combat level. He's got the 370 two-handed skill, courtesy of that extra skill point from smithing. He's got legendary armor. He's got 330 athleticism, so extra hit points. And I mean legendary armor. All of his armor is legendary now. So it's off the stats. He's got custom weapons. And he might as well have a bazooka mounted to his left arm. And of course, you have someone playing his character with thousands of hours of using two-handed skills. So, you know, this is going to be a lot of Imperials getting laid on their back here. And then javelins in the faces of legionary. Now, I'm basically going to be going from crisis to crisis. Like most siege defenses, most epic siege defenses, you know, these can easily last 30, 40 minutes. And there's definitely triage, right? You're essentially going from one area to another. Fortunately, we don't have any huge breaches here. We don't have like a huge hole in the wall. We've had sieges for the channel where there's big holes in the wall and stuff like that. And Diathma is absolutely one of the best castles set up here for a battle like this. Now, I got one of our companions here. He's wielding his glaive too. There's a Fian Champ. The enemy has strong lords too. On our back though, we just blast all their units into next week. As long as I don't get hit by that axe though, we're gonna be doing well. Now this division that I'm pulling back here, this 6th division, I actually told them to follow me. I want to set these guys up differently, at least briefly. This enemy coming from behind here is disconcerting, right? They're attacking our square, and there's not a lot of support here. This is one of those situations I wish I had 12 divisions, because I'd put 25 or 30 of them back here and just keep an eye on them. I'm going to try to just blow through this Western Empire force because I want to position these archers down here in the courtyard to attack and shoot the enemy coming up. We don't have any fire on the enemy where they're coming up there. And I don't really have good angles for it, so this crossbow is going to have to work for now. He actually, Hugh the Hammer actually took a lot of damage in that exchange, just forcing through. I just looked down and I'm just over half. And of course, if you're playing Bannerlord and you're used to you getting two-shot in sieges and guys just crush you, understand, of course, that this is a highly unusual stage of Bannerlord. For all intents and purposes, this is a stage that most players never get to. This is level 50 character. A lot of guys top out in the 40s or upper 30s. All elite armor. Throughout my life when I've gotten into any kind of hobby, usually the word that I use for it if I'm in a bad mood and hating myself is called obsession. And then if I'm in a good mood and I'm trying to be positive about things, I say I'm passionate, right? I'm passionate about working out at the gym. I'm not obsessed with being fit, but I'm passionate about it, right? I'm passionate about gardening. I'm not obsessive. But when you have, this many, literally over 10,000 hours of Bannerlord, and can't get enough, some people definitely would say I need a therapist or something like that. But I'm having a good time. I'm actually playing at work right now. It's kind of nice. I'm making good money for you fellas thinking about joining the fire service. This is a great profession, and this is one of the side benefits. Besides the old sort of slightly crass saying you get more pussy than a toilet seat, this is a great profession from so many different angles. You learn a foul bit of swearing, but all jokes aside, of course, people having their worst day call you, right? It's a very honorable profession. I take that seriously, right? With both the health of my body and staying very fit, because if someone has a house fire and their kid is trapped at 2 in the morning, I'm not about to be out of breath and unable to do the job, right? So fitness is part of it. Mindset is part of it. You have to have a killer attitude, like I will fucking rescue this kid. I don't give a fuck. I don't care what the conditions are. I don't care how tired I am or what's going on. You basically develop a killer mindset. And killer in a way of doing good, right? You just become, again, sort of obsessed or possessed with accomplishing a mission that's important. All that little riff aside, I like to mix these riffs in, especially in sieges like this, because otherwise I could just tell you, okay, well, I'm moving backwards. I'm trying not to get stabbed. I'm sending these guys in to attack over here. We're going to definitely mix in some stuff like that. And I think it's good to encourage people to become firefighters. I think this is the kind of thing, if you have that killer attitude, right? If you're okay being in uncomfortable situations, if you're okay with claustrophobia and being really hot and sweaty and dirty for a long time and going through some of the difficult side of the job, this is a grand profession. And of course, I have nothing but thanks that I got into it at this stage. All right, less philosophy, more tactics here. We're resetting these divisions. I think it was working okay before. I'm just going to kind of tinker with the location. I pull the 4th a little closer. I may end up leaving the 4th out on that wall, but I don't like how much they're getting shot, right? Those guys are really getting shot by enemy archers. Maybe in this corner it'll be a little better, because then it'll stack the enemy up and the enemy will be able to shoot the guys in that corner. I'm starting to become a little bit more careful here because my health is at half already, and the enemy's still only elite troops, right? Drunzinic champions and elite cataphract. It's been, 15 minutes of battle already, and it hasn't been like a furious wave. It's been relatively trickle. Apart from that initial wave or two at the main gate here, it's been this. It's been 20 guys or 50 guys at a time. We'll see if that changes. I think it will. A little momentary silence. I'm supposed to I'm supposed to be quiet sometimes, especially in the heat of battle. We'll do our best, but most guys at Western Channel appreciate the narration, and I try to keep things fresh and talk about stuff that'll either be entertaining, educational, or at least interesting to listen to. It's a burden at time, right? And I've definitely watched my fair share of YouTube channels for Bannerlord, and I have a hard time with some of the guys' narrations, right? Whether they're just talking about stuff that I'm watching and I don't need them to narrate. They're like, oh, okay, so we'll do this ransom here for 2,860, and it's just sort of rough. And so I've developed a process myself, and not everybody likes it, of course, but generally the feedback is good, and continue to give me that feedback, right? If you guys want me to talk less, if you're new to the channel, it doesn't mean that your opinion doesn't matter, right? Some of the guys have told me in the past the narration level, the cadence of the narration is good. But if you don't like it, right, it's democracy, right? If all of a sudden there's more guys on the channel that want me to shut the fuck up more, I'm all about shutting the fuck up, right? I'm here for you fellas. You gotta love the physics of it. The hammer is great, and I can talk about his weapon loadout a little bit because of that knockaround effect, right? It probably would be really good in RBM. I've used it a little bit in RBM, and the game dynamics are so different with RBM, especially when I use the posture system, that I've never really taken it serious. I definitely appreciate what the modders did with RBM, but when you play regular vanilla Bannerlord for so long, RBM is a really jarring experience. And as much as I want to get into RBM every single time, I have a problem with it. You know what an analogy it reminds me of is free-range grass-fed beef. This may not ring true for people outside of Western culture, or at least outside of America, but most Americans are highly used to what we consider normal beef, and what that basically translates to, the science is artificially fattened beef. They're fed corn. If you don't know this, I'm just going to go ahead and do this disclaimer now. If you love your burger and don't want anybody to change your mind, you want to mute for the next 60 seconds. The average cow in the United States is routinely fed a diet that's heavy in grain for their last 60 days of sort of fattening up before slaughter. And during that time, most places give them antibiotics because a cow is not designed to digest grain. It makes them fat. They're able ultimately to consume it, but it's very bad for the cow. And it produces all kinds of negative effects that have to be countered with everything from antibiotics to other medicine. Well, what the ultimate effect of that grain does is it makes the beef from cattle that's fed a lot of grain very fat. And if you know anything about meat and beef and stuff like that, very fat meat, generally, if it's, I guess, cultivated correctly, is very tender, very moist, very, I'm trying to think the right word. I'm not like a huge steak aficionado, but it's basically, it's what most connoisseurs of beef prefer, right? Like the Wagyu beef is a highly fattened, fucking massaged cow. And of course, if there's any beef experts out there, you guys can always chime in here and tell me I'm an idiot. I don't know. But most beef, basically, the nutshell of that all, I'm close to my 60 seconds. I don't want someone to come back on and be like, you motherfucker. Most beef in the United States is not real healthy for you. It's overly fattened, which makes it hyper marbled. And the reason I started this whole little diatribe here is that grass-fed beef is much better for you. However, because it has much less fat in it from them eating grass instead of grain, the average person who's used to Americanized, highly marbled, highly fatty beef, it's about 3 or 4 times as much fat as the average grass-fed cow. They don't like it. They eat their grass. They're all excited, right? They go to their farmer's market, whatever. Yeah, grass-fed beef. That'll be good. It's healthier for me, I've heard. I've read somewhere it's good. And they don't like it, generally. I do. My wife and I eat grass-fed beef all the time, but it's been a process getting used to it, right? It's not as tender. Sometimes it's chewier than your marbled beef. All right, I'll get off that, but the reason I wanted to mention that is that combat in Bannerlord is a little bit like marbled beef, right? It's this saucy, juicy, sort of easy arcade mode combat, and when you play RBM, all of a sudden your character fucking gets knocked to the ground because you run out of energy. and then some guy trucks you, and your horse gets fucking stood up by a random arrow that hits it in the neck and stuff like that. It's very jarring for those of us that are used to Bannerlord in this arcade effect. And it's hard to go back to, right? It's hard for the average American all of a sudden to start eating grass-fed beef because they're used to this incredibly moist and tender and juicy and fatty marbleized beef. All right, enough of that shit. Is this archers charging? They are. There's like 500 archers charging the gate. All right, we got to get down there. I got to throw some of these rocks down on these guys. This is high-end archers here. I'd like to save a few of these rocks, but look at that shit, right? There's Sergeant Crossbow. There's... I get fucking pursued here. Motherfucking one legionary. Fuck you. On your back, motherfucker. Yeah, they got Sergeant Crossbow by the dozen, and they do have cons guards. I just saw at least... If it's not a cons guard, it's one of the other horse archers, the Kazate horse archers. So I gotta get down there, right? Our troops, it's starting to become a fracas down here. Archers act a little differently when they come through the door. Some of them try to shoot, some of them try to rally, some of them try to get on the walls. And this is a different situation all of a sudden. No more meat anecdotal stories here. We're fighting for our life here. Let's smash some of these Sergeant Crossbow. Of course, you gotta be very careful these guys don't turn their attention to you. They're pouring in Fian Champs here. They're trying to get to a wall, a position to shoot. There's cons guards. I see master archers, elite crossbow, and heaps of sergeant crossbow. And these guys with their mace, man. Look at this guy. He's on me like fucking... That motherfucker was all over me. They move fast, too. These sergeant crossbows, man. There's not many other units in the battlefield that I fear more than a sergeant crossbow. With 330 athleticism, you're just not worried about a lot of units. They move too slow, and their weapon speed is usually pretty slow. Like, show me a line breaker. I'm just not worried about a line breaker at all. Oh, I just got a level. I think that's level 50 or 51 or something. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But those sergeant crossbow, man, they're nasty, and they're shooting our fucking troops. I just saw them drop 2 units there. All right, let's see. Move these guys back. What can we do here? I know what we can do. That 6th crossbow division, we can concentrate that fire. These are the guys that were behind there for a little while. Watch this little trick. Let's put them in a shield wall. Very briefly, they're going to absorb some arrows here. I see you coming, fucking trying to sneak behind me. They're in a shield wall now, so they're playing defense. And as soon as they're in a line, what we're going to do is break them out of it so they start shooting. Now, the orders for that, you tell them to change to line formation, and then instantly tell them to stop. And what that does is every guy pulls out his crossbow and starts shooting it in. It's just a complete missile firing school. Look at how many bolts are being shot in there. And the death spam shows it, right? It's just Sergeant Crossbow killed so-and-so, and the enemy all of a sudden gave up their shooting. It's almost like that barrage changed their mind. What's this guy doing here? Those infantry mixed with their archers. There's a cons guard. They do have cons guards. It's still elite troops. This is amazing. I mean, I've told stories about fucking fat American beef and firefighting and done tactics, and they still have all elite troops. And incredibly, this square is holding out. I mean, I can tell it's smaller than what we started with, but we can add troops to it. This is, you know, the perfect Bannerlord army. This whole series, we'll talk about this a little bit next, since it looks like we're in a good situation here, right? Infantry and archers are coming in kind of in a mixed, ugly mess, and as long as I don't get too careless here, I can really rack up the kills and do damage, support our archers. There's like 2-handed guys coming in. You want some of this? I don't think you want any of this there, Scolder Broda. There's a lord in there I'd love to pound in the face. So whether you go to Reddit or whether Discord or whatever it is, there's certainly a lot of people that think that they have sort of figured out an optimal army, and I'm not here to tell every single person that they're wrong. Whatever you're doing, if you're having fun with it, that's fine. But for the empiricalists, for the guys who want to form the perfect army in Bannerlord, I don't think they're going about it right. Usually it's homogenous, right? They have, I think that's the right word. Usually it's monoculture. It's a singular unit, or maybe it's a couple, right? They're like, well, I want nothing but cons guards and Imperial elite cataphract, and cataphract crush everything while the cons guards shoot everything to death, and we crush it, and everything in sight just melts. Well, there's a lot of situations where that's not an optimal army. I understand it makes you fast, you can run away from forces in the campaign map. There are other advantages that you can't really compare to battle. But in Siege, that would not be an optimal army, right? There would be negatives to that. There are other situations where that army would just not be optimal. You're all on horse, you're highly vulnerable to a whole bunch of archers on foot, you're highly vulnerable to enemy shock troops that stand you up, and hence this whole series. Again, it's not meant to be empirical, it's just meant to be a great example and hopefully inspiring to guys out there to form your mixed army. Something akin to this army, I think, is perfect. Right, of course, the title of this is perfect. I'm not really gonna post a video for YouTube for something like this with my experience and say a somewhat perfect army, right? That's just not a thing. The question mark on there is my nod to humility, right? Maybe there are better army makeups, but I think for all scenarios, if you're talking about an army for all different types of situations, this is the best kind of army. A mixed army where you have the ability to do open field tactics, crush the enemy in siege defense, play defense in a situation like this, still funnel them, right? Now, if you haven't seen a lot of the episodes, maybe this one will be out of order, I don't know. But in this series, we're going to explore it, and we're going to show the devastating power of a mixed army in Bannerlord, and I really think that will continue in War Sales, right? You might even be playing War Sales and watching this episode. I think the tactics that apply here will largely be the same in War Sales. Of course, I'm hoping that there's changes. I'm hoping there's changes to the AI, or I'm hoping there's really interesting new units in War Sales. I don't think a bunch of guys with a sling is going to make a difference, right? I'm not going to speculate too much on some of the changes that might come. Hopefully, we get a Tier 6 Noble unit. I had I don't know what to call him. I had a friend, we'll call him a friend. I had a friend create a mod that basically made Sturgeon Dredzinics infantry. And I've played around with it a little bit, but I haven't really figured out a way to integrate it into any of the save files. Apart from doing a full Sturgeon campaign playthrough, and I've already done one of those in the past year and a half. I think what most people are hoping, though, is that the Nords and/or Sturgeons eventually, or maybe even at the time that you're watching this in War Sales, have Tier 6 infantry. It's one of the things that's clearly lacking in the game. And, you know, the guys are like, well, just dismount your Banner Knights. No, I mean, that's the whole point, is it should be better than a Banner Knight dismounted, right? It should be some beast of an infantryman, maybe some guy who has a shield and then good one-handed weapons, but incredible two-handed skill, so that he can close on Fian Champs. It would be great if there was basically a rock, paper, scissors to a Fian Champ, right? Cavalry ostensibly is better than Fian Champs, but not really, right? I've done plenty of tests where they just completely pulverize, your average army of elite cataphracts. The only thing that really challenges a bunch of Fian Champs is an Aserai Vanguard Ferris army used correctly, or a Khans Guard army used correctly. And in most situations, I think if it's 400 on 400, I'm usually going to win with the Fian Champs. They're just so fucking deadly. Of course, never mind. I won't go too deep into that. The bottom line, though, is I think people are really hopeful that there's a really nasty melee unit coming. Oh shit, I'm getting myself trapped here a little bit. Fight our way out of here. I think most people are hopeful that War Sale has a nice Tier 6 infantryman. A lot of people, of course, want to see it for Sturgia. We probably won't get that kind of a change, but they may, the Tier 6 Nord might be some fucking, who knows, it might be a dual wield or something like that, right? A guy with two weapons where you can somehow swing with your right and left button. Wouldn't that be interesting? But whatever the case, though, I still think it'll be the case even with the expansion, that a mixed army will be the best army. And here's another good reason to use a mixed army, fellas. It's more interesting. I hear guys all the time, they're like, you know what the best army is? 400 Khans Guards in F1, F3. And I don't think they're joking, right? I think once in a while that person is just writing that as satire. But I do think that there's a lot of people that think that that's the best units, the best army, and best tactics. And man, I gotta be honest, right? And they're not gonna like me saying this. I find that unbelievably dull. Just that the best tactic is to acquire, you know, this Khan's Guard and then just F1 and F3 and then what? Right? Go eat some tinfoil, I guess. I just find that incredibly uninspiring and unstimulating. I mean, I got an 8-year-old that we babysit sometimes. She can do that. Right? I'm not interested in doing that myself. I want an army like this where you can do dynamic tactics. Now, speaking of dynamic tactics, I've done a couple things here without really telling you as I had my little monologues. We've thickened this first division. I told you before, we have these 3 other divisions that I'm using to fatten this division. It's paramount that this square maintains continuity. Continuity or size in this case, integrity would be at least 30 or 40 units. Once it gets to about 15, they start to collapse quickly. The enemy surrounds it, your troops get obliterated. And so what I do in a siege like this, and if you're going to have big sieges like this, you want to win, you want to make sure you have at least a couple divisions in your head that you're thinking, those are my reserve divisions that I can add to the square. I don't really like having a square of 100 because you might need those units somewhere else, right? So here again, I'm stealing from the 3rd division and boosting that 4th division over there. This division is just holding this that rampart so that our archers can work on it. You can see even the guys at the back there in the 2nd Corps, those guys are shooting as well. And my God, this has been a long siege. Die already. And the enemy really isn't doing much of a dent. You know, again, our army is unbelievably powerful. In many ways, this is probably about as powerful as armies you can develop in Bannerlord. Every once in a while, I see one death as the enemy pounds on a guy. But you have to remember all the different advantages that we have here. And they're all stock advantages. What I mean by that is we don't have any mods making our army better. On the contrary, I've already mentioned we're making the enemy stronger here. It would be pitiful if we were just playing vanilla Bannerlord, how badly this army would shred everything in sight. What is this shit? This is archers charging? But with the 330 medicine skill, of course, that this character has, with these guys have banners, right? Throughout our army here, we have captains with banners that give... Oh, you fucker, sneak up behind me. All kinds of perks to the different units. Oh, you're not dead yet? Get up! All these perks that these guys get. On top of that, they have banners that provide everything from 15% less ranged attack damage, or more frequently, what we have is 15% less melee taken damage, which is what this guy has, right? This is Hugh the Hammer's mighty armor amplified by a 15% less damage taken banner. God, the enemy's just streaming in over the hills. Everywhere I look, there's just a fucking train of enemies coming. And we may just lose this to attrition, right? Eventually, you get so many troops, it just wears you out. But we've got quite the meat grinder set up right now, and of course, this elite army. It's looking pretty good so far. Now, what's also very possible here is the enemy will rout. The enemy's definitely suffering something like an 80 or 100 to 1 kill ratio, and basically an inverse kill ratio. Right, they're having 100 of their guys killed for every 1 kill they get. You can just watch the screen on the right. Right, there's almost never do you see a little red blurb, and when you do, there's 70 or 80 guys getting killed before you see it. Right, there goes the Legionary, just ate shit. And now we'll avenge him by killing the next 50 or 60 enemy foes here. The other thing that the enemy's suffering from now is they're starting to run out of elite troops. Right now they're at tier 4 units. Heavy Imperial heavy horsemen are tier 4. They no longer have all Legionary. We've finally made it through all their Legionary and elite cataphract and stuff like that. It would be fascinating to know how many tier 5 and tier 6 units we've killed. I see these guys are being naughty here. There's arms and body parts laying on the ground. It's getting nighttime, right? The sun keeps on sinking. Of course, that's the time pass mod. I do my best to leave the mods in the description, but if I don't leave one and you want to know what it is, just ask in the comments. My health has gotten to a perilous state, so I'm starting to play a little bit more defensive as I charge all the enemies here. What that basically means is you're going to see me do one-on-ones, but not bother with like huge amounts of forces. But we've got a death factory set up here too. I probably could just go sit down and occasionally mix or balance out some of these units. These guys are beautifully protected behind that wall. They've got a square there. Look at the archers just strafing the enemy on the flank as soon as it gets to him. This front square has 4 divisions of crossbow, archers, etc., pounding everything that attacks them. the enemy's just in a complete murder fucking... This is an unbelievable, destructive murder situation for him. And on top of that, you have a maniac wielding a hammer, you know, adding to their misery. Just got to be careful I don't take like a sword to the face. And I gotta be careful I don't get too careless with a kick. I'm very fond of kicks. I think kicks are great in Bannerlord. And there's a perk I picked up recently that'll be interesting to see. I don't think I notice any difference, but it's somewhere in the tactics, I think. Or oh no, you know, it's in roguery. There's a roguery skill where your character gets 50% kick duration stun. I like that, right? You kick a guy and he's like, oh, he gets kicked extra hard. For whatever reason, roguery causes that. Now, of course, my kicks, you know, they probably cost me as much damage as they deal out. But it's one of the most deadly, just simple melee tactics in the game. You got a legionary bearing down on you, and you just kick the guy, and then just one-shot him with your hammer. If you get your timing down, you know, you always want to move towards the guy when you kick. That way your foot is as far out as possible and close to the guy, right? Once you get that down, if I get this extra half a second or whatever it is, it's just even more lethal. God, just die already. Now, I have nothing to do here, right? This is where the guys with the bow would be making up some ground. They could just stand on a rooftop and shoot. I'm reduced to risking myself. Let's bring the second down here. There's nothing really attacking them. We can put them directly behind the rest of the divisions. I'll just basically drag these guys over. And not only can we bring them down in an emergency, but all these guys can add their shooting to this. Right? These guys will be able to shoot through the little holes here. They're protected by this third division. This third division is shrunk, but it's still pretty solid, right? What is that, 10, 15 guys there? Legionary and whatnot with their flag. Now we can add the second corps here. There's some infantry in the second corps as well. Oh, you motherfuckers. There's archers over here shooting our troops. You fucking assholes. Shooting me. Alright, let's get the third division's over here. Let's blow these guys out of there. We're not about to let archers fucking start sniping our troops here. Hurry up, boys. Thank goodness these aren't elite archers. I don't have a lot of infantry left. Get in there and charge, boys. Kill them all. I fucking love that shit. And then you hear the enemy get killed. Push a hole, boys. I tell you what, you guys just push your shields forward and I'll smash everything to jelly. The front gate looks okay. You know, they're all holding up their little shield. You guys just keep parrying there, bitches. We're gonna smash you into next week. Just about knocked that guy out of the castle. Yeah, fuckers. Of course, for some reason, like your low-level archers, look at this fuck. They parry everything. They're just gently. Of course, you know, you can only attack overhand in certain situations too, so the AI is triggered to parry overhead, but it's sometimes even in the open field, man. I will shred through I think they're routing. I was gonna say I will shred through elite archers, and then you get to their in tier 2 Imperials, and a guy will parry you 6 shots in a row. Well, a little anticlimactic here because we never really were pressured hard in this siege. I mean, a few instances there where it was a little hairy, but what a maelstrom, right? Our formations here are largely intact. We've got a beautiful sunset here, this snowy, incredible scene here, and just another dominant, epic performance by this 400 troops. 7,100 enemies. That means over 4,000 fled. But you know what, right? Like we lost 130. There's no way that last 4,000 was going to defeat the rest of our 400 elite troops. So it makes sense they fled. Like on the surface, you know, you feel like you're robbed of the last third of the battle. But it was eventually going to start being tier 2 units that just get completely smoked by archers. And it was already getting pretty ugly. Companions did amazing work at this stage. These companions are starting to rival the companions from my very long campaign of a year ago. You know, 300 bow skill, 300 and two-handed skill, etc. Of course, the Fian Champs Rex shop, nobody surprised. The Khans Guards, I like their KDR better, right? 685 to 1, that's a good KDR. And just general destruction here, right? Of course, this whole army is successful. 13 dead. Now, if you stayed to this point, you must be a hardy fan and a lover of Epic Siege. I was hoping that would be harder, believe it or not. Like, I've pulled every single lever to make that as hard as possible. I guess I could, I don't know, I guess I could go in with 200 and we could try an extreme challenge or something like that. Maybe we'll do something like that eventually. War Sales is going to be very interesting because it's going to be interesting to see if there are scenarios where you can effectively form a fort out in the ocean, right? You can have 4 or 5 boats tied together. If you haven't heard of that feature, that's something that's coming. You'll literally be able to moor the boats up next to each other and then fight like that and make kind of like a floating armada. It's going to be really interesting, and hopefully it breathes a lot of life back into this great game. 8,400 prisoners, and most of our units are in good shape. Like, this is amazing. I got guys that are 80% health, 93% health. Of course, Hugh the Hammer was almost down, but, you know, still up and wrecking shop. We'll do some loot here, and then we will wrap this episode up. Probably not too exciting. It's amazing how huge battles, the loot is just not that good. It's kind of startling, really. Yeah, there's not even really any masterpiece or legendary shit here. But he doesn't need it, right? I mentioned before his legendary armor. And again, most of this gear is going to go away, right? This is not going to be transferable to War Sales. That's okay, right? We'll start over from the ground floor. Guys like it when we get our asses kicked anyways on the channel. So we'll be getting slapped around by pirates and Nords just like everybody else. But I appreciate you fellas. Like, if you've watched to this stage, you guys are great supporters of the channel. I'm trying to create content that you guys are enjoying on a consistent basis, but please leave feedback if you want to see something specific. If you've seen too much Siege, write that shit. Had enough Epic Siege, motherfucker. Quit talking so much. With all that said, please hit that like button on the way out. And with all that said, fellas, I will see you friends next time.